it's Zia here, and welcome to the channel. Today we are in the world of Henford on Bagley, and we are building on the lot of 14 Nettle Lane. The house that we're building today is a tiny home. It comes in at a 3-tier house for 94 of the 100 tiles. The house was built for Anita and Thomas McWilliams, and they are the parents of Lena McWilliams, who's the mum of Elsa, who features in my Sims story. Anita and Thomas have lived in the country all their life, and they now live in this tiny little country cottage. They downsized from their big farm and they've come to live here in their little cottage. Anita loves cooking and canning all of the food that Thomas loves to grow. So Thomas loves the outdoors, and he loves his animals, and he loves growing his own food. So because of that, I added the Simple Life lot trait to this build as well. I found that the shell of this house came together really easily, which was a first for me. Normally I really struggle with getting the shell of the house together, especially the roofing. But with this build it came together quite easily, which was really good. I did spend a little bit of time off camera trying to figure out what the outside of the house would look like insofar as what wall texture I would have. I ended up settling for the country living wall texture for the downstairs, which was that stone. And for the upstairs and the little bump out, I chose the plain wood panelling from the base game. I spent some time off camera trying to figure out what windows I was going to use for the build. However, I have settled for using these green and yellow windows from the Strangerville pack. You'll notice that the trees all look quite dull and the plants look quite dull, and when I was doing this build, I could not for the life of me understand or figure out why the plants were so dull. And then I realised that I was building in autumn, so you'll notice that the trees and plants all changed to the more vibrant colours when I change the season back to summer. In this build as well, I have lined all the paths and the gardens with these dull daisies from the base game. I just love these daisies, and I find that they do create a lovely border around the gardens and the pathways. I've also used a lot of the Romantic Garden Pack plants in this one as well. They really do give a really nice cottage feel to the gardens. In this build, I've also added the wild rabbit home and the flock of wild birds, that tree stump home for the wild birds as well. So I've added those to the build. I wanted Thomas to befriend the rabbits so that they would help with the gardening and eat all of the weeds. I've also added this bird feeder at the front of the house and a birdhouse at the back of the house. I wanted this house to feel like there was lots of wildlife around, and that the Sims who lived here really embraced feeding and playing with the wild birds and the wild rabbits. I think my most favourite thing in building is creating all of these beautiful gardens. I just love the flowers and how these gardens turn out. I didn't have a plan coming into this build other than I knew I wanted to build a tiny country cottage for Anita and Thomas McWilliams. I knew that Thomas liked animals, and I knew that I wanted to have the chickens and the cow and some wild animals on the lot, and I knew that I was going to use the Simple Life lot trait, so I needed gardens, etc. But for the layout, it really just came together as I went through the build process. You'll notice that I used a fair bit of terrain paint in this build, and I did this build in 2 parts, and the second day when I came back and loaded the build, all my terrain paint was missing, and I had to go through and redo all of the terrain paint in the build, which was really frustrating, and it's happened to me a couple of times now. So I'd be interested to know if this happens to anybody else, or if it's just me and a setting on my computer or something. It is quite frustrating. So if you notice towards the end of the build, the terrain paint does change a little bit. I did try to get it exactly as it was, but it was so hard to do that because it's not an exact science, terrain paint, that's for sure. I'd be interested to know how many of you guys actually use terrain paint in your builds, and how long it took you to figure out and learn how to use it properly. Just like the terrain manipulation, that is definitely not an exact science either, and I'm still trying to figure out, after I don't know how many years of playing The Sims, trying to use the terrain tool properly. I have play tested this build as well, and everything does work. The cow shed originally didn't work, and I could not add or purchase a cow for the shed, and it was very frustrating, and I realised it was actually a mod that I had, a gameplay mod, and once I had removed that mod I was able to purchase the cow. I did struggle a fair bit with trying to figure out how to do this outdoor area. I didn't want to increase the tiles of the build, and I wanted to have it undercover. So I've used the glass greenhouse pergola thing that you find in the sculptures area of decorations. So I've used that as the roof cover for the outdoor area. I had to raise it up because the way it sat with the roof did not look great if I just had it on the ground, and then I struggled quite a bit to try and figure out how to hide the fact that the legs didn't quite hit the ground, and because it's not the right width, I couldn't use columns either to cover it. So I was thinking, okay, I can put columns over the posts, but that didn't work either. So you'll see me going through a number of different things on how to actually make it look like that the posts actually go all the way to the ground, and I end up settling for using some plants that we got from the Journey to Batu pack. To be honest, the Journey to Batu pack, I know it's very controversial. I don't actually like the gameplay of it really at all. I do like Star Wars, but it's not really something I want to play with in The Sims. However, the build things that we got in that particular... Sorry if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. She had a swim this morning and she's so tired, she's snoring her head off. So sorry about that if you can hear that in the background. As I was saying, the Journey to Batu pack came with some really great build items that I do use quite a lot. Now we're moving into the inside now. This was the first time I didn't actually struggle with a floor plan for this house. Normally it takes me forever to figure out where I'm actually putting everything, but this time it came together quite nicely. I've put the main bedroom upstairs, and then downstairs we've got a tiny little second bedroom which is going to be used for guests when they come over and need to stay. I did spend a little bit of time trying to figure out where I wanted to put everything in the kitchen. I knew I needed to add a little table and chairs, or a little sitting area in the kitchen as well, for eating, especially if the weather outside is not great, so if it's snowing or raining outside. So it did take me a little while to try and figure out where to place everything. And because the room is small, I didn't want to clutter it up too much, but I did want it to look lived in. I have added the decorations box to this build as well. I have sized it down and put it on top of the fridge. It still does work. somewhat when it is on top of the fridge or in an area where the Sims can't reach or get to. So they can't rummage for decorations or anything when it's out of reach, but you can still use it by adding decorations or taking decorations down. I do like to include that in most of my builds because sometimes the automatic decorations that come up on the house is absolutely atrocious, and so I like to sometimes pick my own decorations. The bathroom is a 6-tile bathroom. It's small, however it's extremely functional. It does have a bath shower in there, which is great. This is the second bedroom downstairs. It's a 10-tile bedroom, but it's only 2 tiles wide, which does make it challenging to not only take screenshots, but also put things in a place where it's easily accessible for the Sim. I have added a few clutter items in here. This room ideally is either for Elsa or Lena when they stay at the grandparents' or parents' house. So the clutter items in the room are really for them, for when they stay over. Moving on to the lounge room now. It's just a basic lounge room. I added the TV to the top of the fireplace. In real life that probably wouldn't be the best idea, but in The Sims obviously it works fine and doesn't create any fires, or it doesn't melt the TV. I do add a desk to the lounge room as well, and that's for Thomas or Anita to use. As you'll see, the barbecue did get moved quite a lot because I just couldn't figure out where to put it, where I actually liked it to sit. And then I ended up changing out the barbecue and putting in some benches as well, so that the Sims had somewhere to put their food once they'd finished cooking it. I clutter up the outdoor area a little bit just so it looks lived in and looks functional. So when Anita and Thomas have Lena and Elsa over for the day, this is generally where they sit and talk and eat, while Elsa runs around and plays with the chickens and the rabbits. And it's really a lovely family day out for them. We are coming towards the end of the build now, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you stopping by and checking out this video, and hope to see you all at the next one. Thanks heaps again. Bye for now.